Owners Off Script. Real owners, real conversations. Supported by SalesGeek.
Welcome to another edition of Owners Off Script. You join with me, Richard. Today, I have got somebody sat next to me who I read my little note on it, and I'm going to have to make an adjustment, and I will explain why in a moment. Laura Morgan, co-owner of Paul Morgan and Associates Wealth Management Limited. Laura plays an important role behind the scenes in supporting the firm's direction and day-to-day operations. As well as someone's significant role in the business, she's closely involved in shaping the growth and ensuring it runs smoothly. While she keeps a relatively low profile, hang on, just take that bit out, compared to client-facing advisors, her contribution is key to maintaining the firm's strong, client-focused approach to wealth management. There's your intro. How was that?
It's a good intro. It's a good roundup.
Describe you well?
It does.
And what about the bit that says low public profile?
Well, I do try and keep a low public profile, but I will go out and do networking or go and do careers fairs. This is new to me.
Yeah, look, you're in safe hands here, I can assure you. So listen, I've done this lovely big build-up of who you are, and like I ask everybody, who are you really? That's what I want to know.
I think really I am someone that's always learning, open to possibilities, and someone puts family first.
Okay, so family's important to you.
Very important.
So listen, the name of the business, let's go straight there then.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about family.
Yeah.
Paul Morgan and Associates Wealth Management.
Yeah.
So you are one of the co-directors?
Directors, yep.
Okay.
Just Paul and I.
It was named under Paul's name. Was there a reason for that?
It was more for people being able to find him. Paul worked for a large high street bank for a number of years, and we saw a gap in the market for providing face-to-face advice, especially as the banks were changing what they were doing. We could have called it anything, really, but it was more for a fact that people were looking to see if they could find him, and when they would go into the banks and ask if they could have his contact number, they wouldn't give it over. So it was more for people can find him, and it worked.
So were you ever upset that it wasn't involved with like just Morgan and Associates, or
Nope.
ever affect you with people coming up to you going, so you work for your husband?
That comes up quite a lot. I've had a variety of different things over the years. Sometimes people will phone up and say, oh, can I speak to Paul? And I say, can I help? And they're like, no, just the director. And I'm like, you've lost the ability to talk to me now because you've instantly assumed that I'm not nothing to do with
Did you get
the
offended
company.
by that?
Not anymore. I did in the early days.
Did it hurt?
It did a bit, but I think there's quite a lot of it ingrained still, and it's about changing perception and not getting angry by it and just educating people, and just life's different now.
And how did you overcome it then? What would you do? What would you say?
I'd just explain.
Apart
I'd explain
from
my
you can
role.
bugger off, mate.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I'd explain my role. I'd explain some of the decision-making options I had, and just explain that actually he's so client-focused and facing that actually if they want any decisions made, that they're going to have to deal with me because he's with his clients.
Did you always feel like you have to justify your position in the business?
No, I had to, in the early days, work out what my role was.
Okay.
We're fortunate with St James's Place that the partnership is that every business that has partnered with them is different, and it's structured slightly differently, and there's slightly different setups, but obviously the core of what you do is essentially the same. So we were fortunate in that we could find our own way, and it was finding a role that meant that actually it was a bit yin and yang, that I fitted in with what he was able to do and what he was doing, and to make sure that actually I adapted to fit that mould.
So his role within the business obviously is co-director, but he's one of the main advisors there.
He is the main advisor,
But
yeah.
do you do the advice as well?
No.
So
no.
what's your role on a day-to-day?
Everything else,
Okay, so basically you stood behind him, holding him up,
pretty much.
and at the same time hoovering and making the cups of coffee, sorting out the admin, looking after the team.
Yep,
doing
HR, dealing with data
HMRC.
compliance, the accountants, anything else behind the scenes that isn't client-facing.
So you got the toughest job then?
I would say so, and he would probably agree.
Okay, so in terms of your team then, how many people have you got within the team?
So in terms of the core team, there's 5 of us. There's 2 advisors, Paul and Chris, and then we've got paraplanners that work in the background as well.
Okay, so talk to me a little bit about how your business has changed over time. So you formed the business in 2018, and back then, you've got 2 children, Jack and Jessica. Jessica back then was 10 years old.
She was.
Jack would have been, what, 13?
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you cope as a mum starting up a business with a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old?
It gave us more flexibility. So before we started the company, I worked for Richard Lander School, for their governance team. And so I worked on term time. I was inside the school, so I was able to do school pickups. I worked part-time being mum, and Paul worked for the bank. And then when we decided that we were going to take this leap of faith and start the company, it was, you don't know what you don't know till you don't know it, and then you've got to learn it. So it was a big learning curve.
You're consciously conscious, consciously unconscious, unconsciously conscious, and then unconsciously unconscious.
Yes.
And you were that fourth one.
Yeah.
So literally, you were there flapping, but still trying to present yourself as mum,
Yeah.
professional and person, but had no idea what you were doing.
I think a lot of my past roles gave me an inkling of what I was doing, but you don't really know what you're doing until you do it and you've done it for the first time. But there was plenty of people that helped us along the way. Our accountants have been really good. The support we've had from St James's Place has been really good. And I think running groups of high street banks gave Paul a lot of insight into some of the things that we needed to do as well. So we say that what we try to do is run the business as corporate, professionally as possible, with that family feel, and that has stood us well over the last 8 years.
I was going to say, how does that translate into your sort of client base? Do you deal with lots of families or very high net worth individuals?
All types of clients, so high net worth individuals, lottery winners, football players, families, directors of companies, clients that have accumulated their wealth over years selling businesses and then are passing money down to the future generations. People are just starting out on their financial journey that have just started working or are planning for the future or planning for their first home. So we don't say there's a threshold and sorry you don't meet it. Everyone is as good as everyone else.
So you work with your husband. Are your children involved in the business?
No.
Okay, so it's just you and him.
Yep.
What does home life look like? How do you balance home life and work life?
Originally, when we first started, it was I would work in the school during the day. I would come home, I would see the children, I'd put them to bed. I would then go work in the business and I'd eat, sleep, repeat for probably the first year. And then I went full-time into the business and then just developed. And then we took on staff. COVID hit, which was quite shortly after we'd started the company, and we had to reassess everything we were doing. And that was quite a scary time. In terms of when
Because you
COVID
couldn't
hit,
see people, could you?
no, we all of a sudden had to learn Zoom, Teams calls, speaking to people to make sure that they're feeling safe, that they're not poorly, and then dealing with the restrictions to make sure that actually we could go and see them. And then we made a decision then to buy our premises in Truro, which gave us the space to distance effectively and then train staff as well. So yeah, we adapted and shifted really quickly because of COVID.
What were some of the learns you experienced then from COVID that you might not have maybe planned?
Doing meetings virtually was almost an unknown, really, wasn't it, till COVID, and then all the platforms opened up, and it was just something that was talked about, we'll explore that at some point. So it's forced upon you and you then have to adapt to it. So learning new tech, new ways of doing things remotely was a big win.
COVID, one of the best things that came out of COVID was a 40-minute free Zoom session. Amazing how many meetings can actually happen in 40 minutes, not an hour.
Yeah.
So straight away we saved 20 minutes a day, which meant productivity could improve because nobody wanted to pay the Zoom fee.
No.
So you can manage to say everything inside of 40 minutes. But I think also it was that agility and being agile within your business, I think was a lot. So what did you do? Did you go to a paperless system? How did you adapt the system?
Yeah, paperless, learning the DocuSigns, the electronic way of PDF signing and things like that. Postal, things took slightly longer. You weren't able to see people face to face. More reassuring sort of conversations over the telephone, just giving people the option to be able to speak to you more than maybe they necessarily would have done, because obviously the world had just literally been thrown up in the air and everyone had to adapt to it. So
when you look back, that's only 5 years ago. It feels like a lot longer.
It does.
What's been the biggest thing that you can take away from that to help your business going forward?
It pushed us to adapt to options earlier, like Zoom, Teams, remote working, all the different systems that came out. It pushed us into it rather than, I'll look at that at some point. We had to adapt.
With the way that you can and have adapted, it means really you could do your business anywhere now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be restricted to a postcode or a county.
Nope. No. And part of the learning that we took through COVID, once we went into the office premises, is then we realised that as the world reverted back and people got more confident and we moved away from sort of the restrictions that we're in, the advisors were going back out to people's homes to see them, and therefore, we've got an office premises, do we need this anymore? So we then looked at hybrid working, flexible working, 4-day a week, and we adapted and shifted again depending on what the staff need.
So let's talk about this, 4-day working week.
4-day working week, approved employer, yeah.
Okay, so is that, I have to ask, because some people call it 4-day working week, it's 40 hours in 4 days?
Nope. They do 34 hours a week.
Paid for 40 or 34?
34.
Okay, but they can still do their job effectively inside of that?
Really effectively.
And how have you seen that improve the well-being of the team?
The morale in the team, we've asked them a couple of times since we did it, do you want to go back? And everyone's no. So I spoke to Katie, who was on a non-working day yesterday, and I said to her, what did you do with the day? And she was, oh, I sunbathed and I went and got my car fixed. Like today, if you'd been working all those days, you would have missed that opportunity to have that relaxing downtime. Amy uses the day to take her daughter to dance lessons, which she wouldn't have been able to do. Beth uses the day to go out and do like long walks with her dog. And so they all use the day effectively, but they've all said that actually their weekends have become their weekends because they actually do like their admin days during the week. So yeah, the 4-day week.
Yeah, life admin on a weekend's not fun, is it?
No.
And no one's ever open either
No.
when you need to sort out your utilities or things like that.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what made you go to a 4-day working week? What was it that sort of made you think, oh, did you do a lot of research into it?
Yeah, we work quite closely with solicitors firms and also accountants that both of our 4-day working week employers. We spoke to them a lot. And I remember when they first said about doing it, Paul was like, no, we'd never work like that. The industry won't accommodate that. And I was like, let's explore it. So we took a long time consulting with the clients and speaking to the clients. We took a long time speaking to the staff and getting the staff to test it, putting the infrastructure in place, and then just found a system that worked and worked out what didn't work for those other companies and avoided those pitfalls.
So what did you find out that didn't work?
They closed the whole company on a 1-day a week, and that didn't work. What we did was learn that actually if you could have your staff on alternate 4-day working weeks, you've still got good staff in numbers as well.
You can still operate Monday to Friday?
Yeah. And they hand over to each other every day as well.
What about you and Paul?
I'd like to say we will achieve the 4-day working week at some point, but haven't yet.
What's stopping you? Bear in mind all these benefits.
What's stopping us? I think just the ability to plan a bit better, and actually it's self-discipline to stop, which we're not good at yet.
Do you feel like you've got an addiction to your business?
I wouldn't say it's an addiction because I can switch off when I need to. It's almost like it's relearning. And I remember reading somewhere that someone has said, you don't own a company if your company can't cope without you. Actually, it's a lifestyle business. And whilst the company can quite happily cope without us, it's almost like you get into a routine and a set routine of the things that you need to do every day, and it's breaking that habit, I think, sometimes.
Is it fear? Fear that something's going to go wrong, or Paul, missed opportunity in terms of client, someone needs you today and you're not there to answer it, you're worried about losing?
No, I don't think so. I think it's enjoyment. We like it. We enjoy it. And it's the feeling of when you can do something and you accomplish something, it's like, why stop what you're doing if you're enjoying it?
So what about the children then? So you've got Jack at 21 and Jessica at 18.
Yeah.
What's stopping them from coming into the business? Is it just not for them?
I think Jack's toying with it now, but I think it's age. I don't think they can see that far. Jessica wants to go off to university. She actually wants to be a criminal investigator. So that's what she really wants to do. So she's going to do a gap year, and then she's going to travel a bit, and then she's going to go off to uni. So she really wants to do that. I think Jack never really knew what he wanted to do. He was slightly older when COVID hit, and that threw his plans out. He wanted to be a police dog handler, and that he was booked on to do work experience with the police force, and because that all got shelved, it threw his plans. So he's finding his way now, but he just needs to find it for himself.
Now, something you like to actively promote is empowering people, whether that's women or young people within an organisation. What's the driver behind that?
Originally, when I left school, I wanted to be a teacher, and I never went to do teacher training college. I never went off to university. I just didn't have the opportunity, and I think that's still in there somewhere. We talk about what my why is, and that is education, and seeing that spark when someone says, oh, I get that now. That really it enthuses me to do it more and more, and that's why we do the financial education programme, where our team are all doing their financial exams, while we're constantly training and giving them opportunities and development, because then you see that spark and they go, okay, I've learned something new. That fills my cup.
Does it? That's a very good subject, what fills my cup. More on that later. What's stopping you though from going back to teaching? You're still, I'd like to say, young and more than capable, 20 plus years of employment ahead of you.
Yeah.
What's not stopping you going back and following your dreams?
Nothing. And in actual fact, I go in twice a year and I teach a class for Truro and Penwith College, part financial education, but part about finance in business. And that stems from my relationship with them from doing the apprenticeships and getting the connections with the tutors and that. So I enjoy going back into the classroom and sitting with the future apprentices and helping them with their finance section of their
What about going back
qualification.
and doing your PGCE?
I could do, yeah.
What's stopping you?
Time poor.
So if you could get that day off,
Yeah.
is that something you could work towards?
I'd like to do my leadership and management level 7 next.
Okay.
First. If we've got time to do that, that would be my next thing. And then when we retire and we're not maybe doing the business any longer, then maybe I'd go in and do teaching.
So you've definitely got an appetite for learning. Where does that come from?
I think always trying to improve yourself and always having just having something new. I think I take on other side projects outside of the business. So I also home check for St Francis Dogs Home in Newquay. And that came from, we had to give up a dog, unfortunately, because we had 2 dogs that were fighting. So I gave back to them and I go and do that. And that I enjoy doing as something to give back to the community. And I think always learning something new helps you be more of a rounded person.
So what do you do? What does Laura Morgan do to switch off?
I read, I enjoy walking my dogs, and I enjoy exercise, so running.
What's your book at the minute?
I'm actually on Sophie Kinsella.
Okay.
So I read all of Shopaholics, read all of those books. But she passed recently. Madeline Wickham is her actual name, and she passed recently, and she's written a book about her illness, and that's really interesting. She got a brain tumour.
But how she's got one?
She had one, yeah.
Right.
Unfortunately, the book, obviously, when the book was released, but she's now passed from the brain tumour.
I thought I misheard you then. I thought you said you had one. I was
No, I
supposed
haven't.
to take a big guess. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. I nearly got that completely wrong, didn't I? About to ask you all about it, but no, that's fine. Now, in terms of the business, how do you see the business growing going forward? Because there's a lot of people out there, as you said earlier on, there's a lot of people doing very similar things, but in a different way. How do you see you growing your business?
We will need to take on some more advisors. Amy is currently expecting her second child, so when she comes back to work, she's going to go in to be an advisor, so she'll be one of our future advisors. But taking more advisors in, getting the support staff in that they need to ensure that they can service and look after their clients effectively, and that will be the continued growth. And the same pattern has worked so far, so that's for us really.
Do you find in your industry there's a lot of business, like with the regulatory side of it, a lot of business pain? If you're trying to keep up to date with it, how do you cope?
A lot of sleepless nights, making sure that I'm a bit of a control freak, so making sure.
Are you really?
I am a bit of a control freak. Yeah, anyone who knows me will be able to tell you that.
No.
Yeah, it's the worrying about something that I've missed and trying to foresee, that I've gathered all the information I might possibly need, and making sure that actually we stay compliant is really important to me.
I remember having a role in the bank. I worked for the same company as your other half, but I was a bank manager, and I can remember one night thinking I hadn't locked the safe, and there's a lot of money I can't disclose. There's a lot of money that sits in the safe, and I woke up at about 2:30 in the morning, sweat running down my head, thinking, What I suddenly realised was, had I not locked the safe, that at midnight I'd have got a phone call to have told me that I hadn't done it.
Yeah.
And I had palpitations and the sweats. They're real, right?
Yeah.
How do you cope with them?
I did a workshop with a friend of mine who actually moved over to the States, and she was learning to become a life coach. And at that point, I probably was nearing burnout, and I recognised that I was getting to that point.
What symptoms did you have?
I just wasn't concentrating on stuff. I felt stressed all the time. I was snapping. And I thought, okay, this is really unusual for me. That was at the beginning of last year. And so I did workshop with her and re-looked at myself and looked at some of my behaviours and my patterns. And she taught me a lot and worked out how to reground myself.
What did you identify in that process?
That I was worrying about things that potentially I couldn't control, and that I had to relearn, deal with the things that you control, not the things that you can't control. And I was allowing almost repetitive habits to happen. And she just taught me little tricks, little techniques, like, you go in and sit in the garden, and I've got rosemary in the garden, and I pick a bit of the rosemary and I sit and I ground myself and I sit with the dogs, and that really helps me reset. And it's just about checking in with yourself and making sure that actually you don't allow some of those negative thoughts to control what you're doing. But some of it actually is what I suppose drives the success of the business. So it's finding the balance of what I do with it.
So you're there having a palpitation or a momentary worry. What sort of things do you get panicked about?
Have I paid a bill?
Why would that worry you today?
Because I wouldn't want to not pay a bill. Have I missed something? Have I done a one-to-one with a member of staff? Have I done the action I needed to do for that client? Have I missed that? Is it going to cause them a problem? And double checking myself. But I've often found that some of those check-ins on yourself is a good thing because it's because you care and because you're passionate and you want to get it right.
What other techniques have you used apart from sniffing rosemary?
Walking the dogs every day really helps. Okay. Getting out where we live, we've got some fields just at the back of us, and just taking that moment at the end of the day just to say, okay, you're done now, chill out, go cooking.
Burnout's real though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody recently who said they spent, and a very successful, well-known person in Cornwall actually, who said that he spent 2 weeks dribbling on a sofa and he couldn't get off the sofa. What sort of symptoms, were yours that bad, or was it just more mood?
Yeah, just not coping as well as maybe I should have done, and just that over-feeling anxiousness of your brain going quicker than actually you can cope with, and recognising it quicker. And I think I recognised it because I had access to discussions about it. Katie does a really good for our, we do health and wellbeing. She does some really good stuff in the practice, and she developed the practice policy during doing her apprenticeship as part of her final piece of final dissertation. And so she still does a quarterly newsletter, and she does check-ins with people, and just having the education to identify that actually these things were happening to me allowed me to nip it in the bud before I got to that point where actually the only option was to lay on the sofa. And I suppose it goes back to education, understanding that was happening.
When you were going through that burnout phase, did it affect things at home with the children and the other half? Or?
The kids at that point were older teenagers, so they were living their own lives. I wasn't having to do as sort of physical stuff for them. They were getting on with life. But Jessica was she was just beginning her A-levels, so she was just doing her mocks. She's actually doing the A-levels in the next coming week, so she's a little bit stressed. So but they were understanding, and they realised that actually I needed a bit of space.
They just didn't think Mum was being grouchy then?
No, because I'm not. Oh, they'll probably say something different, but I'm not normally. So they realised that actually there was something a little bit wrong. I've got quite a lot of patience, and the patience was thin. So it's okay. This is longer than maybe potentially they've seen before.
I think it's really interesting to explore that whole burnout period, because it's hard for people to actually identify they're going through it. And I think some of the stuff you've talked about today, for anybody who's watching today, will go, actually, do you know what? I think I've been a little bit short-tempered and lack of concentration, because we often think of burnout as being crashed out on the sofa, or some people taking to things like alcohol and stuff like that, where in your case, it was just, you weren't you.
No.
And how did Paul recognise that and support that?
Once I think he understood that I wasn't just being grumpy with him and that everything he was doing was irritating me, and he realised that, really supported me in the times that I needed to spend with Miriam, supported me to have some of that space. I would say, I'll do X, Y and Z if you want to go, you go on the exercise bike or whatever, but just giving me that opportunity and to talk to be there, to be really open.
You've done exercise through it?
Yeah.
And did that help you?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people talk about getting that kick from endorphins and the serotonin fix.
Yeah.
Was that sort of help level you?
It gave me a sense of I was doing that for me, not doing it for anyone else. So I think that I felt like I was giving something back to myself at the end of the day, which was helping settle some of the...
I think some of the stuff you talk about, though, you've been 21 years as a mum.
Yeah.
In fact, 21 years and 9 months, if you want to go right back that far, right? You have spent, by the sounds of it, a lot of your time pre-business being hands-on, taking that responsibility away from Paul. Look, I'm aware of Paul and what he'd done at the bank. It was a very tough gig at the end of the bank. They certainly wanted their pound of flesh.
Yep.
And long nights and early starts and late.
Yeah.
It was hard, right?
Yeah.
I went through some of that. But you've always had to care for everybody else.
Yeah.
At what point have you stopped to care for yourself now?
More so now than I have done. Also through the last 9 months, my dad has had, and I've just been out there on social media, he's had Hodgkin's lymphoma, so I've been helping my mum care for him. He's fortunately in remission and doing really well and starting to, hair's growing back, and so I'm also doing the muddy run for him in May, just to raise some money for cancer research. But I've started to prioritise the things that I need, even if it's just a short period of time in the day, to allow me to continue to help and care for other people. It's like that whole put your mask on.
To the words out of my mouth.
Put your mask on first before you put the mask on the children.
You can't save someone else, you saved yourself.
No, but I learned that over the last couple of years. But I suppose I still feel very fortunate that as whilst going through maybe burnout and being really busy and having the worry of running a company when the government isn't helping people who own companies very much. I feel we're in a really fortunate position to have made it a successful company, and so far it's going good.
Listen, you've led some really honest conversations today, and sometimes we never know out of these what happens, and that's not the Laura that I've grown to know and experience, and your honesty today I think will help a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot of people going through it.
Yeah.
You touched on how challenging it is out there in the environment at the moment, and there's lots of troubles going on across the world. And here we are in little Cornwall, just trying to keep our heads above water and to make things. So what advice would you give to someone who is setting up a business now that might have a sort of a youngish family?
Don't be hard on yourself. One of the things that I remember seeing, I think Jessica was like year 1 in school, and the teacher had across, go back to schools again, the teacher has across the wall, it's okay to get it wrong because I'm learning. And that saying was so powerful for the children at that, especially at 6, 7, is still quite powerful. It's the same for business owners. Don't be afraid to get it wrong because you are learning. Obviously, clearly some errors can be more damaging than but don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of trying. Don't be afraid of learning. Don't be afraid of giving it your all. It'll pay off in the end.
Wow. We've got a couple of quick questions for you. Ready?
Okay.
So I'm not really certain I'm going to go with this one, but I'm going to go with... I've asked this one actually to everybody that's come on to my podcast. Who's your biggest business inspiration?
My biggest business inspiration, I would say my auntie.
Okay.
Yeah, my mum, my dad's youngest sister, she moved down to Cornwall not long after we all moved to Cornwall, and she completely changed what she was doing. She was working in central London for the Really Useful Film Company, and she started a limited company, and she just inspired me to go for it. And yeah, she was probably my biggest inspiration.
If you had to look back again regarding that period of burnout, did you know it was coming? And if so, what could you have done to have stopped it?
No, I didn't know it was coming. And I don't know if I could have stopped it because there were lots of factors that fed into it. Having teenagers, having elderly parents, being that sort of the main person that runs a house, and having a very busy business. And at that point also we were converting to the 4-day working week, going hybrid working, moving back out of the office in town. So there was a lot of moving parts. And I wouldn't change it. Maybe I'd change how I would have adapted to it and recognised it maybe slightly earlier and done something about it earlier.
Okay. And then just finally, you talk about, we mentioned earlier on, 4-day working week, well-being, and also empowering young women to business. Which one of them stands the biggest for you?
The empowering the future generations out of all of them. But I think that does stem from the opportunity and education, and also enabling and making them feel that they can actually do it, giving them that boost up. That stands the strongest for me.
Laura Morgan, thank you so much for coming on Owners Off Script. Really enjoyed it. Let me shake your hand.
You're welcome.
It's been an absolute pleasure. And I said, your very honest approach today. No scripts, that's the whole thing about today, right? We say it straight from the heart. Exactly. The first thing that comes out is what we talk about.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming and being part of this. If you would like to be part of Owners Off Script, then please make sure you get in touch. Details will be in the information. Also check out other episodes at rewindradio.co.uk. You can also download it from any of your favourite places where you normally go and get your podcast. Love, review, share, all the usuals. But thank you so much, Laura Morgan.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Owners Off Script. Real owners, real conversations. Supported by Soundgeek.